I am 26, male, and am engaged to my wonderful fiancée, Sarah, 25, female. She and I have been together for 5 years, and our wedding is set to take place this spring. My fiancé's brother Mike was also getting married, and his wedding was going to happen this month. My soon-to-be brother-in-law is a fun guy to be with, and we have bonded over the last few years. He invited me to his bachelor's party, and I was excited for a night of bar-hopping, camaraderie, and memorable moments. Little did I know that his idea of a good time was very different than what I had imagined. So, for some backstory, Mike had been dating this girl Rachel for a few years before he met his current fiancée. Their relationship wasn't exactly a walk in the park. My fiancé had told me that Rachel and Mike used to frequently argue, and things sometimes spiraled into physical altercations between them. Their relationship reached a breaking point one night when Rachel got seriously hurt and called the police for help. When law enforcement arrived, Rachel accused Mike of physically harming her, and with her multiple injuries as proof, it eventually led to his arrest that night. While Mike didn't end up serving jail time because Rachel decided to drop all charges against him after his parents convinced her that it would ruin his life, the arrest did leave a permanent mark on his record. They all lived in a small-town community, so everyone quickly found out about his arrest. The fact that he had been arrested for such a serious charge made people question his character. Not only did it impact his personal life, but some of his work colleagues found out about his arrest, and the news of his abuse quickly spread around the office, leading to immense workplace tension. As a result, Mike eventually lost his job, and this permanently tainted his professional reputation, making it challenging for him to secure another position in his field. My fiancé recounted to me that these accusations and the subsequent job loss marked a significant turning point in Mike's life. Faced with these challenges, he decided to leave town in search of a fresh start in a new location. He has since worked on himself by living a disciplined life with rigorous workouts and meditation. After a few years of struggling to rebuild his life, Mike met his current fiancée, Michelle. He was frank with her about his troubled past and the accusations of abuse by his ex. Against all the odds, they fell in love with each other. Michelle saw a side of him that others did not. She believed in his capacity for change and growth, and their love for each other blossomed despite the heavy baggage he carried. Mike and Michelle's love story was a second chance at happiness for him, and it marked a significant turning point in his life. While he couldn't erase his past, he had found someone who accepted him for who he was and offered him a chance to build a better future together. We were all happy for Mike and absolutely adored Michelle. I was excited about the prospect of joining Mike and his friends to celebrate his upcoming wedding and his bachelor party. The night started off just as expected. A group of us gathered at one of his friends' house for his bachelor's party. Drinks were flowing and we were all having a great time. As the night progressed, Mike started to get more and more drunk. This was quite out of character for him, as he was never the type to indulge in excessive drinking. I could see his friends discouraging him from drinking more, but he kept pushing. We let it go, as we all wanted to have a good time. At some point, Mike, quite drunk, started sharing stories from his past, recounting his tumultuous relationship with Rachel. He painted a vivid picture of their history together, sparing no details in describing their relationship as an emotional roller coaster they had been on. He started getting more and more emotional with every minute. The combination of alcohol, nostalgia, and the weight of his past seemed to be taking its toll. The room, once filled with laughter and joy, began to feel like a confessional, and we were all sitting around awkwardly listening to him recount stories about his ex. One of his friends, clearly worried about him, gently suggested that it might be best for us to change the subject and carry on with the celebration. Mike, understanding the growing concern, rose from his seat and declared loudly that it was time to take this party to the next level by heading to a bar. We cheered at the prospect, relieved that he wanted to continue celebrating the night, and quickly grabbed our coats to join in on the adventure. Just as I thought he had finally moved on from the Rachel subject, Mike dropped a bombshell as we were about to head out. He revealed to us that he was going to break into her house tonight and, in his own words, mark his territory by urinating on her bed. To make matters even worse, Mike went on to describe his elaborate plan. He intended to rearrange her living room furniture into a chaotic mess and mess up her kitchen, to give her a scare for a lifetime. I stared at him in disbelief, struggling to figure out if he was genuinely serious about this outrageous idea. Mike was clearly convinced that this vengeful act was the perfect way to settle old scores and get the closure he believed he needed from Rachel. He spoke passionately about it, as if he had been harboring these feelings for a long time and saw tonight as the ultimate opportunity to unleash his anger. A few of his friends were equally in shock like me, trying to talk some sense into him, while others oddly seemed to be energized by his idea, nodding in agreement as if they knew of his plan and were ready to embark on this absurd mission with him. The atmosphere grew tenser by the minute. I decided to approach Mike and, speaking in hushed tones, tried to reason with him, explaining that this was not the way to move on and that it could lead to some serious consequences. I firmly told him that I would not stand by if he did such a thing. We had been friends for a long time and I thought he was better than this. After a few minutes of convincing, Mike nodded reluctantly, making me relieved, thinking that he had abandoned the idea altogether. The night continued and we made our way to a nearby bar. Everyone was having a great time. It appeared that Mike had put his earlier plans aside, and we all relished our time together, sipping drinks and sharing laughter. The hours flew by, and before we knew it, it was well past midnight. We decided to take a leisurely walk through the neighborhood, reveling in the camaraderie of the night. As we strolled through the streets, I couldn't help but notice that Mike appeared to be guiding us toward a particular destination. His demeanor had shifted, and he looked calculative. Some of his friends started getting excited, exchanging lewd comments and cheers as we stopped across a building. I was still in the dark about whose place it was, but the cheering and leering from his friends clued me in that something was about to happen. My heart sank as Mike revealed that we were standing in front of Rachel's house. I had hoped that my conversation with Mike earlier had convinced him to let go of his ill-conceived plan. However, my words seemed to have fallen on deaf ears. In the background, some of his friends were already concocting a plan to sneak into Rachel's apartment. The situation was about to take a drastic turn, and I couldn't believe what we were getting into. Fortunately, there were some people like me who were trying their best to convince Mike not to break in. We all knew that he had a lot to drink and wasn't thinking straight. However, Mike remained stubborn and, in his drunken state, started spewing out offensive phrases like, "She had it coming," and "This is my closure." His words only added to our growing anxiety and discomfort. As soon as they started putting their plan into motion, I realized that I needed to do something. This was wrong on so many levels, and I couldn't just stand by and watch them make a terrible mistake. I excused myself and stepped to a corner so they wouldn't notice me dialing 911. I knew that calling the cops was the only option to prevent something regrettable from happening. Within minutes, the police arrived at Rachel's place and caught Mike and his friends in the act of breaking into the building. They were taken into custody, handcuffed, and escorted away by the officers. I must admit, the sight of flashing police lights and the sound of sirens sent a chill down my spine, but I knew I had done the right thing, even if it meant ruining my brother-in-law's bachelor party. When I arrived back home, I was still trembling as I narrated the incident to my fiancée, Sarah. Understandably, she was shocked and deeply upset. However, instead of feeling relieved that I had done the right thing by calling the police, she began to raise her voice. She accused me of having ruined her brother's special night and was furious that I had called the police on him. Sarah's anger flared while I tried to explain my reasons and the potential consequences of what they were planning to do, but she wouldn't listen. Later, her parents also called her, probably after finding out about Mike's arrest. They were all scared that Mike might end up in prison permanently this time, as he already has a prior in his records. Our relationship has been severely strained since that night. We have been fighting non-stop for the past few days. Tonight, amid our heated argument, my fiancé, still upset over my actions at Mike's bachelor party, shouted, "You ruined my brother's special night. How could you call the police on him? He was just having some fun." I, equally frustrated and feeling the weight of my decision, countered that I couldn't just let him do something so reckless, which would have ruined all our lives that night. I am bewildered that she continued to support her brother's actions when, as a woman herself, she should understand the gravity of his reckless and dangerous plans against Rachel. This discord between us is deeply unsettling, and I can't believe that all of this happened because I put my foot down and stopped Mike from doing something extremely dangerous. Due to her intense reaction, I can't help but feel like the bad guy, even though I feel like I did the right thing. So, am I the a-hole for getting my brother-in-law arrested at his bachelor's party and ruining his night? Update 1. Thank you all for your support and valuable insights. I have been reading your comments and they have been both helpful and reassuring during this difficult time. Mike has been currently released on bail as the legal process unfolds. He was fortunate to be let out on bail because his parents bailed him out. My fiancé informed me that Rachel, his ex-girlfriend, is determined to pursue the case against him this time and will be taking him to court. This decision from Rachel has left Sarah's family on edge, as the new charges have the potential to result in severe consequences for Mike. The combination of his prior arrest and the recent events could lead to significant legal challenges. Mike reached out to me after getting out on bail, and he didn't hold back his anger. He told me that he didn't believe what I did was right and that I ruined his last night as a free man. He continued to tell me that I had destroyed everything for him and that he had worked hard building all these years. According to him, Rachel deserved everything that he had planned for her, and if I was a real man, I would have joined in his plan. He also attempted to lay a heavy guilt trip on me, saying, "Do you realize the consequences of your actions? My job, my reputation, everything's at risk now, all because of you." In response to Mike's accusations and anger, I stood my ground and calmly retorted, "Mike, just because you wanted to ruin your life doesn't mean you should ruin ours. I can't support something so dangerous." I went on to remind him of his past actions and how his violent episodes with Rachel had led to her injuries, which in turn had prompted her to call the police. While I understood the complexity of his emotions and the anger he might have been harboring, I firmly told him that seeking revenge in this manner was neither productive nor justifiable. Mike's words have since made me question our friendship, and I can't help but feel a deep sense of disappointment. His relationship with Michelle, his fiancée, also has taken a hit. She was understandably furious about his plans to thrash Rachel's place and the potential legal consequences for him now. They had some heated arguments and things escalated to the point where Michelle eventually canceled their wedding plans after a particularly intense fight. In terms of my relationship with my fiancé, it's been incredibly tough. The trust between us has been seriously damaged. I have been doing my best to communicate with her and explain my reasoning behind calling the police, but it's an ongoing struggle. I hope we both can get through this together. Update 2. I appreciate all the comments and support coming in, and I am still trying to make sense of this complicated situation. Sarah's parents confronted me about Mike last weekend. Apparently they have a deep sense of family loyalty, and in their eyes, as a part of the family, I should have had a certain responsibility to support my soon-to-be brother-in-law, regardless of the circumstances. Sarah's mother in particular was quite emotional during our conversation. She felt that family should stick together in tough times and handle their problems privately. They believed that I should have kept my reservations about Mike's actions to myself and refrained from involving the police. I was shocked that they were blaming me in this situation instead of teaching their son to be a better man. I told them that my parents raised me to not attack women irrespective of the circumstances. My own upbringing taught me that morality and legality should be above any familial bonds. I emphasized that I had genuinely tried my best that night to convince Mike to not break into his ex's place. However, I went on to clarify that I understood their concerns and that I didn't intend to undermine their family's values whatsoever. My actions were solely driven by my own convictions about what was right. Hearing this, Sarah and her parents got even more upset. They continued to justify Mike's behavior, explaining that he had gone through a difficult period and they felt he needed my support rather than my betrayal. Our conversation turned into a heated debate, with both sides unwilling to back down from their convictions. I had to walk out of the house because reasoning with them became impossible. I confided in my parents later, and fortunately both of my parents fully supported my decision. My father, in fact, expressed pride in my choice to involve the police. Unlike Sarah and Mike's parents, who have a history of bailing them out of any situation, I can't jeopardize my career and future by being associated with his actions. My parents asked me to carefully think before getting involved with my fiancé's family any further because they seem to have a loose moral compass. This situation has made me realize that my fiancé and I are clearly not on the same page. It's become evident that our disagreements extend beyond just this incident. We have deeper issues to resolve before we get married, and we cannot keep arguing in circles every day. Since this realization, I have expressed to my fiancé that I don't feel comfortable going along with the wedding plans at the moment, hence we should put them on hold for the time being. I told her that we should work through our issues first, so we don't carry them into our marriage. Upon hearing this, my fiancé started crying and yelling that I didn't love her enough. She told me that I should not back out of our wedding unless I was thinking of quitting this relationship, and questioned whether our love was strong enough to overcome the recent challenges we were facing. Sarah expressed how she had been looking forward to our wedding, and the idea of postponing it was deeply disappointing for her. I let her know that I did not want to upset her, but I also don't think this is the right time to go ahead with our wedding planning, especially when I am being blamed every day for her brother's arrest. I have asked her to give me time and space so we can get through this. Currently, we live in my house, and while I have postponed our wedding, I have no intentions of ending our relationship. I deeply care for Sarah, and I hope that in the days to come she will come to understand my perspective, and together we can work through our differences. Update 3. Mike has been arrested again. I can't believe it as I am typing this, but the situation has escalated to a dangerous level. Mike's recent breakup with Michelle has apparently taken a toll on his mental state. He has been drowning his sorrows in alcohol, which had evidently clouded his judgment. Apparently, he decided to break into Rachel's apartment while she was at work. He waited for her to come back home and then tried to attack her. Fortunately, her neighbors heard her cries for help and acted swiftly by alerting the authorities. This time, I don't think Mark can escape a serious legal implication. Breaking and entering is a serious crime, and it is unlikely that he would be granted bail considering the circumstances. Sarah is understandably worried sick about her brother, and I can't blame her. She has always been protective of him, even if he has made some terrible decisions. But this time it is different. Rachel's safety was on the line, so I hope she doesn't blindly support her brother this time. As I had already mentioned, although we decided to postpone our wedding, we have continued to stay together. Sarah has apologized to me regarding her behavior last week. She explained that her reaction was fueled by stress and shock upon learning about her brother's arrest due to my call to the police. Sarah told me that she wanted me to have found another way to handle the situation rather than involving law enforcement. However, after explaining to her how she would feel if her ex-partner had broken into her house on his bachelor's night, Sarah came to understand my perspective. I hope that she genuinely comprehends the gravity of Mike's actions and the need for proper consequences. Sarah and I continue to address our differences every day, and it's an ongoing process. We are also planning on going for couple counseling so we can get better at understanding each other. Update 4. It's been a month since my last update. Mike's hearing took place after his arrest for breaking and entering. His parents hired an expensive lawyer to defend him. Sarah and I went to the courtroom to be there for her brother, even though I didn't want to be there. On the other side of the courtroom we saw Rachel, and she appeared understandably distressed. Her lawyer presented a compelling case with substantial evidence, including photos of her injuries from multiple attacks by Mike. It was a moment of revelation, as we finally saw the full extent of the harm Mike had caused to Rachel. His parents could no longer conceal the truth, and a collective gasp of horror swept through the room. With such evidence, it was apparent that Mike's lawyer could not argue his way out of this. In the end, the judge found Mike guilty of all charges, and he was sentenced to serve 4 years in jail. Despite the fact that I knew deep down that Mike couldn't escape prison time this time, given his prior records, it was disheartening to witness him reduced to this, all because of his obsession with his ex. I often wish I could turn back time to that fateful night and convince him more effectively not to go through with his destructive plan. After the legal proceedings concluded, I felt compelled to approach Rachel, even though Sarah had reservations about it. I believed it was essential to express my sincere apology directly to her. I found Rachel outside the courtroom, and with a heavy heart I began by acknowledging the harm that Mike had caused her. I apologized on behalf of Sarah's family and me, expressing deep regret for the ordeal she had been through because of Mike. To my surprise, Rachel, while still hurt by the past, appreciated my gesture. She was thankful that I had stopped Mike and his friends from breaking into her apartment on his bachelor's night. I told her that she had done the right thing by standing up for herself, which brought a genuine smile to her face, even as her eyes welled up with emotion. Sarah and I have been trying our best to cope with the shock of these events. We are currently going for a couple of counseling sessions, and it remains to be seen whether we are going to be able to work out our ongoing issues or not. Update 5. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm thrilled to share some happier news today. Sarah and I got married. After the tumultuous events surrounding Mike's arrest, we were all understandably shocked and saddened. However, as time passed, we began to heal, and life slowly returned to normal. Sarah and I continued our counseling sessions, working hard to understand each other better. Through it all, we never gave up on our relationship, and I eventually realized that she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. She came to recognize that her excessive protectiveness of her brother was misplaced, especially when he was in the wrong. Sarah's parents also reached out to me after the turmoil caused by Mike's actions. I believe that, after the truth became apparent to everyone, they were compelled to admit that Mike's actions were wrong. They were apologetic for their behavior towards me. I assured them that I completely understood their protective instincts as parents, so I held no grudge against them. After much discussion of our future together, Sarah and I decided to move forward with our wedding plans. The big day was everything Sarah had dreamt of, a grand and beautiful ceremony. I watched in awe as the most beautiful woman in the world walked down the aisle towards me, and I couldn't help but feel like the luckiest person on earth. Our families came together to celebrate our love in this beautiful ceremony. We spent our honeymoons in Maldives, enjoying the picturesque beaches and crystal-clear waters, creating unforgettable memories to mark the beginning of our married life together. Since Mike's arrest, he has sent me letters of apology. Although I was initially hesitant to open them, my parents encouraged me to do so as a way to address and process these complex issues. In the letters he sent, Mike expressed deep remorse for his actions and acknowledged the hurt and distress he caused to everyone involved. He's slowly coming to terms with the consequences of his actions and has expressed a desire to turn his life around. It remains a challenging journey for him, but he's determined to make the most of the time he spends in prison working on personal growth and self-improvement. Although I appreciated his attempt to make amends, I couldn't ignore the magnitude of the damage that had been done. These letters were a small step towards potential reconciliation, but I couldn't easily forget the past. The wounds are still fresh, and the healing process will take time. For now, life has settled into a comfortable routine for Sarah and me. Our love and understanding continue to grow, and we approach any challenges as a united team. Facing adversity together has only strengthened our bond, and we are excited about what the future holds for us.